First up, we have Paddington in Peru, the third film in the Paddington franchise, which frankly I think faces a mammoth task because Paddington 2 is widely regarded as one of the finest films of the last decade. Now, this sees the Brown family reunite to rescue Aunt Lucy after she goes missing from her home for retired bears, and that means travelling back to Paddington's homeland. Now, I really enjoyed this film, but I'm fascinated to get sort of into the weeds on this with you. But first, tell us a little bit about Cinema Spotlight.
Well, hello, Reuben. So happy to be here.
Indeed.
What a beautiful red carpet. It's not a carpet, it's a
festive.
curtain. It's very festive, which is good for a film later on. This is Cinema Spotlight. This is our sort of back to basics way of doing reviews for films. So Cinema Spotlight is our way of just having a lovely talk about film.
Exactly.
And that's great. And, you know, this is our pilot episode, so it's very rough and ready. We're giving you these raw opinions, you know, with our unironed curtain, but it's a beautiful shade of red. So, yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about this roster of films, which is, we'll get a cascading level of emotion from myself. Paddington 3.
Yeah, that's
Paddington 3.
It's an emotional journey, or is it?
Or is it? That's the thing. Now, Paddington 3 is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. And that's a fine with a capital F, I think. But that's not what you really want, especially because from your opener, you said about Paddington 2, which is one of the finest films. One of the finest British films ever made. I
totally is.
As most third installments, or when an installment is, you have to find a new idea, you know, you have to send your characters out of the comfort zone.
Yes.
So we're out of London, we're in Peru. And so with that comes some advantages and some major disadvantages for me personally. The film is very competent. It's got jokes, it's got familiar faces, some unfamiliar faces who are with Emily Mortimer, who's replacing Sally Hawkins.
That's right.
Which I think is, she doesn't quite fit in.
I do agree.
Because you've got Hugh Bonneville doing his usual stick, which is amazing. It's really...
Gotta love Hugh.
He works really well in this franchise. And you've got some very returning characters, but only in the beginning, very beginning. And then you've got Antonio Banderas, a 90s heartthrob who was famous for being a very attractive, cavalier, very go-to celebrity in the 90s and early 2000s, playing a villain obsessed with finding something that could lead to greater wealth for a better life. Yes. Now, does that sound familiar? And this is the thing that I found when I watched Paddington 2. You're missing the British quotes.
That's exactly it, isn't it? I think that when you look at Paddington 3, it is much more of a generic children's film, and that is completely fine. I completely agree with you. It is a good film, but it is not a great film. I laughed consistently. I felt ever so slightly emotional towards the end.
Oh, definitely.
But overall, it's more of a straightforward, nice family film.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have the magic, and it doesn't have, as you mentioned, the heart of those first two films. It does touch on kind of these aspects of family, and it is conscious of the fact that Paddington is an immigrant. But I actually think that particularly Paddington 2 has like a lot of deep thematic exploration around identity and around adoption. And I just didn't think that this was particularly deep in any way. It's still fun. Paddington's still adorable. It was nice to be in Peru and to see, okay, this is Aunt Lucy, because we actually haven't seen that much of her. She's briefly in the first film. But I would say that my fears about this going in were unfortunately correct.
I went home after watching that film and I had to find out what was missing.
Yeah.
Because it felt like something was missing. There were moments where I was like falling around in hilarity. It was very funny at times. And I think my highlight, as always in most films, the highlight is Olivia Colman.
I knew you were going to say that.
Olivia Colman is, and you know, this franchise, they have this obsession with nuns. The best joke, I think, came from something to do with her character. I won't give it away, but something to do with her character. But then I went back.
And the song, the
Oh,
sing
and
and
the
dance
song.
sequence that she has, also I think is really
It's
good
perfect.
fun
She
with a
can't-
little Sound of Music pastiche.
Absolutely brilliant. She can't play the guitar for toffee, but that's part of the charm. It
Yeah.
has that naffness with such sincerity that Paddington isn't naff at all. It's really sincere, and that's what makes it so lovable.
Really, at the end of the day, you look at Paddington 3 and you say, it's nice, it's lovely. You should absolutely go and watch it. You should take your family. You should go on your own. You know, it's a really nice film. You will have a nice time. But unfortunately, we have to view it in the context of it being the third film. And it is just the case that the first two are absolutely fantastic. So it is the worst film in the Paddington franchise. But that isn't really to say that it's bad, because it's not.
It's not a bad film.
It just has such strong competition.
Absolutely. I would recommend the film to a family audience. I wouldn't really go further. I think people want to see it. Yeah, it's a good time. If you want that really unique feel that you got from the first two, you probably won't experience it. You might be a little disappointed. I feel like, however, there is a blend that could be made in Wonka 2, because Wonka was missing similar elements, in my
That's
opinion.
interesting. Well,
And we're not talking about Wonka, but I feel that Wonka had more of what this film needed, but also this film had some of what maybe Wonka needed, and it might need going forward with both those films. And Paddington 4 is just a little bit more of that magic sprinkled back in, as you said.